Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Chit Chat. Oh my gosh. A little bit of backstory. We had to do 40 minutes of technical preparation before we actually got to recording this right now. So this conversation is long overdue. I've known this guy for most of this year, and we have some incredible conversations in the DMs. We both make incredible content. He inspires me. I think I inspire him, and we're so excited to sit down and talk about this. But before we begin, my man, give us an introduction. What's your name? Where are you from? What do you do?
So my name's VASST. I live in Hong Kong. I'm from the UK, but I was basically born here. So most of my influences I make music, and most of my influences are from my surroundings. So where I live right now is within nature, but sometimes I go to the city, and I always get these ideas from the neon signs of Hong Kong's environment and the people, the sort of the whole vibe and the energy that Hong Kong gives off, especially. When you think of Hong Kong, you see the harbor, and there's all these lasers and lights everywhere. So, yeah, that's who I am is basically that in music form.
Man, I love that. I love that. There's so much culture in Hong Kong, and it's such an easily recognizable city. Like you said, there's certain stereotypes about the place, that everyone associates with it, people vibe with. But to be honest, knowing you and knowing your music, I definitely think that you do a good job of reflecting that kind of energy in your sound.
Oh wow, thank you. Yeah.
But not to narrow you down, because you are very diverse in terms of what you create and what you make. Let's start with environments first of all, because you brought it up. And it's been interesting because me and my brother have been talking a lot about different places that people choose to live and how that affects their mentality or their creative energy or whatever. You living in Hong Kong, I am assuming you're enjoying it. What are the pros and cons of Hong Kong's environment on your creative state?
So first of all, I'm going to talk about Hong Kong is most of the people in Hong Kong are quite stressed because they have long working hours, and they have they're all office jobs mostly. I'd say 90% of the jobs here are office jobs, and they're either something to do with banking or financing, because they're in Hong Kong was supposed to be made for China's economic center, or even Asia's economic center, same as Singapore kind of. So being around those people, their body language, their state is quite easily absorbed, and you have to often realize that. And so that's one of the things that influences how you feel. But then on the other hand, you have to realize that it's that you're separated from these people, and you have to sort of be in the little island in your head, and you have to
make your own space, man. You gotta try to make your own space. No, it's
that's right.
Interesting that you say that, because I'm living in Seoul right now, and 100% the same. Seoul is it's just a super fast-paced city, man. Everyone's go all the time, and I guess with that, it comes with some good stuff and bad stuff, because I'm also super hyperactive. I like to be going all the time. But like you said, if you don't have your own mental space, if you don't create your own island for yourself, it's very easy to be always on edge, super anxious, just because of the energy that you're living around 24/7. I guess something that's interesting about Seoul is that even though it's a huge metropolitan area, we also have a lot of mountainous areas here as well, and so I'll often go for mountain hikings. Something that's random but super interesting is that I recently read an article that said hiking is actually South Korea's biggest industry. They said it makes more money than the beauty industry and
amazing.
The movie industry, $2.3 billion a year or something like that. And I was like, what? Is that real?
Wow. And so that would be the equipment and people.
Exactly, man. People buying shoes and clothing and tents and all the hiking gear and everything. And it's kind of true, to be honest, because if you go outside, you guarantee to see people wearing hiking uniforms or stuff like that.
Yeah, it's the same here. It's exactly the same here. Yeah. Everyone either wants to go hiking or go drinking. We're going to talk about that.
Okay, that's like
Yeah.
actually the same. Yeah, so it's the same as soul then, because that's the other pastime is bars
Yeah.
and drinking. So,
Exactly.
but
So cool.
I know you personally also like to get out into nature. Talk about that a little bit. Like why do you make time for it, and how does it help you?
So, I make time for it because it's kind of like my. It's not a detox, but it helps me look back on what I've been doing throughout the day. You know, it's kind of like leave this environment that I'm in all day, which is my, this is like my office, my room. you know,
Yeah,
it's-
the creative cave.
So, yeah, exactly. But sometimes you can get stuck in your head and like the ideas get a little stale maybe, and you have to go out and be surrounded by, a totally different environment. It's like a shock to the system almost. And yeah, it helps me first of all refocus, get inspired, and then it helps me to just get my positivity back and get my energy back up again. Because usually when I go out into nature, I'm running and listening to other music that makes me feel amazing and that I enjoy a lot. So, it's like I'm in nature with the music I like, doing what I like, and then building up my energy by running. So, yeah, that's exactly why I do it.
Oh man, dude, I love that so much. No, it's so true. I mean, I think like there has to be balance in life, especially for creatives, because we always tend to lock ourselves in our bedrooms, like just like make stuff.
Yep,
But there's a quick way to get
exactly.
burned out as well, because you start to run out of ideas, or you're only, by yourself. It's
Yeah.
important to have other inspirations. Nature's a big one for you. What other like tips or practices do you have like to keep a healthy environment for yourself?
Well, so what I like to do is to keep my diet healthy,
There we go.
because like people don't realize it, but everything that you eat is going to make you feel a certain way. So if you eat foods that are stodgy and starchy or fatty, they're gonna make you feel quite I think the word is lethargic,
Yeah.
and drained of energy because your body has to work harder, and it'll make you drained of energy and you'll feel tired. So yeah, what I like to do is I like to eat as healthily as I can, and try to limit my consumption of like treats or like sweets and stuff like that.
Sure.
But yeah, it feels the things that are healthy taste great too, and yeah, it helps me feel happier in general because I have more energy and I feel like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to do more things. I want to get stuff done. Like I think of my first goal of the day after eating, for example, I make myself, I mean, it might sound unhealthy, but it's okay, I think. It's like an egg salad with tomatoes and some nice herbs and garlic, and that, I think that's okay.
Dude, you're
and
making me hungry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow.
It
Might have
sounds
to make something
amazing.
after this, then.
It sounds
But
amazing. But it's true,
yeah.
because I think that diet's like really underrated. People don't think so much about like what they're eating, but like you said, like the food you're putting in your body is the energy you're giving your body, so it's gonna
Yeah,
have an
that's right.
effect.
Yeah, you are what you eat, like what people say.
Was it hard for you to make that like a conscious habit, or was that something like you kind of grew up around, that it was more easy for you to keep it a part of the lifestyle?
Well, my parents are actually really health conscious, and they like to stay as healthy as they can, and actually they're mostly vegetarian. They like to eat as little meat as possible, and so growing up we've always had these like massive salads, or just home cooked meals that are super healthy, like that I see. Sometimes I go to my friends' houses or other families, and they're eating like fried food with deep fried potato chips, and yeah. Okay. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that every once in a while.
I'm gonna expose myself here, okay?
Yeah.
Well, I think the challenge is, man, like I think that it's really cool for you, because obviously you're living like with your family environment, so it makes it easier to have healthy food. You guys can balance the responsibilities of
Yes.
cooking and everything. For myself, like I'm living alone, I'm living in a big hectic city. I'm working until like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So like,
Yeah.
in my situation, nobody wants to come home and say, I'm gonna cook a delicious healthy meal. It's like come
Yeah.
home like, okay, what's on takeout? I gotta get to work on music.
Yeah.
It's really hard, I think, for a lot of people to make eating healthy a habit. So even though we know it's important, how do we allocate energy to it? You know, how do we make it easier on ourselves, like to get into the practice? It's super important. But
Yeah, it's extremely important.
I'm not sure if you have any tips on that. I think the only thing I know of is like just doing prep, you know, like doing prep before your week starts or having a plan for yourself. I don't know. Do you have any tips you could offer the audience, like how to make eating healthy like a priority?
Well, to make what I think, I haven't experienced that personally, but I found that what other people do is they like to, like you said, they prep, they have like a schedule for themselves, like, oh, I'll make my dinner for tomorrow, tonight. So they'll make this 2 portions for themselves the night before, or during the weekend they might make like a massive amount of food, and then they consume it over the week, or maybe they have half takeout, half food that they have, and they alternate.
Yep. 2 more things I thought of just now that I do. I'll add healthy stuff into the unhealthy food. So like if I'm eating like tteokbokki, which is like a Korean spicy dish, like I'll buy some cabbage and put it inside. I'll buy some carrots and put it inside, you know. So like I'll add like vegetables to other food I'm eating. That's one tip the audience could take. It's nice, you know. It's not like it's not completely healthy, but it's a little more healthy.
Yeah, it's definitely healthier than just
there we go. Exactly.
The full-blown thing.
I think the other thing as well is like this helps me a lot. Eating healthy snacks. I'm definitely a snacker. I love to eat snacks throughout my day. So before, before like I was always going to grab like a bag of chips or some candy, you know, just snack on like in between classes or like I'm going through my day. But these days, I usually eat like dried sweet potato or dried blueberries, so 2 big ones for me. Sometimes nuts, or if I have the time to eat like some like walnuts or cashew nuts. So I think like, you know, even that's another good way to get a little bit marginally more healthy is like to change the snacks you're eating, you know. It could be banana chips, it could be raisins, I don't know, like whatever the go-to is, but it's
or sweet potato chips, like the transition, like if people want to make the transition. Yeah.
And they're actually good. Like sweet potato chips really are actually good. So
yeah, but I actually don't think people can find those in many places in other parts of the world. But I think in Asia it's quite common to find like
That's a good point, actually. Like, there's a lot of foods here in Asia that it becomes commonplace for us to eat and consume. But if you go to like the Western world, it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, what's that? What's a taro?
And that's an underrated vegetable, by the way. Taro is like an underrated.
It's amazing.
It is so good. I want to rewind a minute back, VASST. You talked about how your parents are really health conscious and how that kind of spread over into your life. Looking at your parents objectively, if it's okay with you, what would you say is the best and worst things that you took from like your mom and dad? The reason I'm asking is just because like I feel like parents are such a huge influence on us, and some of us are very conscious about it. Like we can see the influence, whether it's good or bad. Some of us have no idea like the things we're carrying with us because our parents taught us that or our parents lived that way. So I was curious for yourself, like looking at it objectively, like what do you feel like are the best and worst things that you took from like your parents' influence?
So I think that I'll start with the worst things because, you know, I want to end on a good note. So the worst things I'd say are maybe, well, not exactly being a perfectionist, but waiting until I've gotten until I've realized that I'm doing things too much that I shouldn't, I'm wasting my time doing, or another thing could be is being too critical about something, as in looking too much into detail, or maybe I should call it overthinking, but it's not quite that. It's kind of like just over analyzing a situation rather than simply washing through it and, you know, just moving on to the next thing. But I think that helps somewhat. So that can also be a good thing. So yeah, now moving on to the good things, there are so many things my parents have have influenced me with. So like, you know, like what we're talking about now, like personal development things, different characters and influencers, like that they have not grown up but they've grown listening to and being influenced by. And I mean, there's definitely many more positive things that there are. Sure,
but like, really like one of the most biggest ones, exactly. Yeah. I'm going to talk about the perfectionism aspect a little bit because that is like so so commonplace in the creative scene. You know, like I think that so many of us as creators deal with that that drive for perfectionism, that drive to overanalyze, you know, overthink the stuff we're making. Where do you think you're at with it right now? Do you feel like you're like more comfortable with stopping yourself from overanalyzing it, or is it still something that you're working on like every day to get better at?
Well, I think that now I'm at the point where I can realize that I'm doing this thing that I shouldn't be doing, and I'm like, okay, that's enough, stop, you know?
Yep.
And then, so, yeah, I think that that's already sort of, it's starting to wash, you know, it's starting to wash away everything sort of.
How did you
now.
get it under control?
So, I think it was quite a long process of working on it every day and sort of realizing that I am wasting a lot of time, you know, over my daily process of doing things that are basically useless.
Yeah.
You know, like.
It's insane to me. It's insane to me, man. Like I'll have those moments whenever I start to like look at myself from a third person, and I'm like, holy shit, you're wasting so much time right now, Ben.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know, because
that's
like I'm
right,
thinking
yeah.
like, did I type this message right? You know, like, is this what this person needs to hear? Like, is this the good description for this Instagram photo? Is this a good enough
That's
to
what
post?
I think about.
Yeah, you know. And then like whenever I look at it from like the third person perspective, I'm like, I could have posted 2 things in the time it took me to post this one thing.
Yep, that's right.
You know?
My goodness.
And so it's insane whenever you do look at that, how much time you're wasting, because time is, I'm not sure if people understand how important time is and like how limited it is as well. Like, I'm not sure about your situation, but I know that for myself, like working a full-time job, like, dude, it's a grind, man. Like I woke, 7.5 hours like at my academy, and that, you know, leaves me with maybe 4 or 5 hours like at home to be creative, because I have to have, you know, time to sleep, I have to have time to do my house chores, you know, time to exercise. And so like I guess the older you get, the more you realize like how precious time is, and like how you don't want to lose it, or you don't want to waste it, you know? For anybody who's still stuck in those like that process of like overanalyzation and perfectionism, what would you tell them to give them kind of a push or kind of an edge to move away from it, or to think about it differently?
That is a very good thing to bring up.
Maybe to make it easier, what would you tell yourself from like a year or 2 ago that you know would inspire yourself to stop?
So I think I would tell myself to well, first of all, to buy a watch, and then to realize just how much time is being spent on sort of the one first of all, you know, to make sense of this, the first thing you should realize, the first thing you should be thinking of is this really necessary? What am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Is this really going to matter in the end? Are people going to care about this? Or, you know, should I care about this? And then if you're at the point where you're tweaking things that people aren't going to care about, then that's the point. That's the moment that you realize, all right, I can stop. You know, that's, you don't have to worry about it then. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, and I think that we have such a bad perspective on that. Stuff that we tend to hyper focus on, other people do not even care about, you know.
Yeah.
And we have
or won't notice.
Yeah, won't notice. We have such a poor perspective on what we're focused on and what everyone else is focused on, and what we care about, what everybody else cares about. But I love that first tip you gave, though. It's so practical, like to buy a watch. Like, it sounds silly, but there's so many like basic things like that can help give us like a self check of like what we're doing. And just the process of like looking at how you spend your time or looking at your life is so insightful. You know, if some people do journaling, like they write down everything they did in the day. Some people like myself use to-do list, but you know, very like physical, practical things like a watch or a to-do list, like it really keeps you accountable, because you can identify, you know, where you're spending energy, what you're happy and unhappy with, how much time is this taking, how much time it should be taking. Like that process of self-reflection is like super, super important. I think so. Okay, so we've covered some really good stuff already as far as like having a good environment, having good influences, having good habits, balancing your life, eating healthy. This is all super important. But something you wanted to bring up was about altering your mental state. So obviously, I think for all creators, we all kind of get into like those low points, or we get to moments of frustration, unhappiness, desperation.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges for you, Vast, that you faced in 2020? Like looking back at 2020, what were like some of the major challenges that you had to go through mentally or emotionally that you had to face?
Well, one of the biggest ones really was comparing myself to my challenge was to not compare myself to other people and rather make myself unique, because I'm technically still learning how to make music. I mean, I think everyone is technically, but in the beginning, it's trying to be original is one of the most difficult things, to set yourself apart from the rest. And one of the hardest things for me was definitely realizing that my music was good enough for myself. It's kind of like it's the same with what people think about themselves. Like, am I good enough for other people? But in my case, is my music good enough for other people? So it's kind of like I'm living a double. Like, my music is me at the same time,
Yep.
Yeah. So that's one of my biggest struggles is my music good enough for? Yeah.
I want to dig into that more because it's something that I think about a lot as well. There's two things I want to bring up, so I'm gonna write down my notebook right here so I don't forget it. But I want to ask the first thing is you talked about like making yourself original, and I want to ask you about that real quick to make sure I understand, like how to make yourself original compared to like the other sounds that influence you. Is that what you meant?
Yes, that, and also it's just the general sound, I guess.
Okay, so I want to ask you about that specifically. Like, why is that a challenge? Is it a challenge because you're listening to certain artists and you aspire to be like them, or is it because like you're following certain tutorials and so you're just having like a similar outcome? Like, why is that a challenge exactly?
Well, I think that it, like you said, it is what you said, and also it's that there are so many artists doing similar things or trying to come up with new things that end up being similar, by coincidence, just because of how many people there are out there trying to, create content and create, music. Yeah, and so, I know you didn't ask about this, but what I now use is just randomizers. To make my music original, so that's literally impossible to copy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Dude, randomizers are awesome, dude. They're great. They were a great tool, to be honest.
Yeah.
I find that conversation kind of interesting because it's not something that I think I've ever struggled with specifically. So I'm curious about like why you deal with it. And it's not just you. Like, I have other friends as well who also have the same situation of like constantly being compared to a certain artist, or people always saying like, "Oh, you sound like blah blah blah." But I guess for me, like, whenever I think if I'm looking at my situation specifically, my family was quite large, and so we were very like competitive with each other in a friendly way. So because we had such a huge family, like, we all wanted to be unique and different and special. I didn't want to be like my older brother. I didn't want to be like my older sister, And so I think it kind of spread for me to my music as well. Even if I was super inspired by Avicii or John Denver, like, I was never like trying to copy them though. It was more like, man, that sounds dope. What can I make that's dope also? And so like for me, like, it wasn't like exactly like I wasn't like borrowing. I was taking inspiration without taking structure or without taking like techniques from them. More of just the energy they were exuding, and I wanted to put that same energy into my music as well.
The emotion the song is giving you.
Precisely. So I'm kind of curious for you, like, if you could give me some insight on this situation. Why is it something that you struggle with in the same way that other people struggle with it as well? If you know the specific reason.
Well, I think that it's because I try to replicate the sounds that I'm hearing, and I think that's not good. Like, I shouldn't be doing that. But then now I've learned that obviously I have to change it. So yeah, I use randomizers, and I also use, my own sort of original way of making sounds to that I found to change it up, to make it different, to make it, unique. Yeah, like I said. Yeah, now it's not so much of a problem, but before it was.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Well, I mean, like, I guess that's part of the learning process, though, isn't it? Like imitation and then like doing your own thing with it. You follow someone else's steps to understand the process, and then you can know how to make it your own process.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I guess like in that case, I guess what I'm thinking like to tell people is just to keep in mind like where they are in their process. Like it's okay to replicate, it's okay to copy, it's okay to imitate. Just to understand, how it works. And then later, like you said, you can get into more how to make it your own, how to make it more diverse and more personal. Yeah, that's super.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving me the insight, though, on that, because that is super important. I'm not sure if I completely
no
understood before. Anyway, to jump to the other one, because it's a little bit more interesting.
All right.
You said, is my music good enough for myself? Break that down, man. Tell us about that.
Right. So, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like what I like to do is I want to bring how I'm feeling into my music. So is that really what I'm asking myself when I say is it good enough, is actually more like, is this really what I'm feeling? Is this really what I'm seeing and hearing and, I don't know, smelling, feeling, like taste, the five senses kind of thing? I don't know. Is it really what I'm trying to show here? It's like,
is it authentic?
Like
are you conveying it fully? Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Where are you at with that? Like, do you feel like, let's say you start from 0%, like what percentage would you say you are on like authentically expressing the emotions you're experiencing?
I think right now at 60-ish%, I think.
Very
starting
nice.
to get, it's starting to rise slowly with every song that I'm coming out with now since like January. It's been like more and more and more and more, and it's been like so great for me, I think. Yeah.
Congratulations on that. That's congratulations on that. And like, I know that I think all of us are in that same kind of situation. So because it's so relatable, what would you say were the most important things you did that got you closer to that authenticity? Was it a specific like DAW tip? Was it like a lifestyle change? Was it a mentality shift? Was it a certain practice you had? Like if you look back from when you were at 0% to now when you're at 60%, what would you say were the key steps you took to get closer to that authenticity?
Well, I think that, one of the key steps was just making as much as I can as fast as I can. So, I mean, surprisingly, it worked better for me. So I made, if I got stuck in a song, I had to start making a new one. And there would be days where I'd make a song in a day, or I'd make a song in 2 months. That's not good. But obviously, it's like practicing every day. It's like just constant practice and like revising, and just going through it, filtering it through your like current state, because you'll feel different every day. If you want to convey something through a song, you have to do it instantly, otherwise you're gonna have like this weird messy, like, oh, I feel this way and then I felt this way another day. It'll kind of change every daily. Like, is that
yeah,
clear?
you got to capture the lightning in the bottle at that moment to understand like what you want to convey. Oh my gosh, dude, that's so interesting.
So
there's a few things I want to unpack there real quick. You said make as much as you can. I'm assuming you're just like making some for practice purposes, right? Like you had no intention to release them?
That's right.
Okay,
That's
very
right.
good. Also, but go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, but then if they were, if I really felt that like they were authentic and it was sounded good and it was like, oh wow, then I would keep it. I'd be like, this is release, this is practice. I'd separate them both. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like that's a good point in general, because like to be honest, man, something that 2020 taught me big time was like, whether people agree with it or not, life is quantity over quality. We have to do endless amounts of whatever X is in order to achieve Y. So, like if you're trying to get like the best body, you've got to do, 10,000 push-ups until you finally get like that one result you're looking for.
Yeah,
if you're
not one really long push-up.
Yeah, or if it's finding love. A lot of people in my circle, like in the dating scene, like if you're looking for love, you've got to date 200 people to find the one person that you actually like. Like life is kind of like that. Life is a lot about quantity over quality. regardless of you like it or don't like it, it's just the kind of the way it is. It's the same way with music. You know,
Yeah,
musicians
agree.
make 500 songs, and we only like 10 of those songs, and we only release one of those songs.
Yeah, so accurate.
but
It's
but
so sad.
I don't know if it's sad or not, to be honest, man, because like you said, like if you look at the positive side of it, it's all practice. So the
Yeah.
more music you make, the more happy you are with your outcome. So maybe right now you're making 500 songs and releasing only one of them, but because you made those 500 songs, next year you're only going to need to make 200 songs and you're going to like 10
Yeah,
of them,
that's
you know?
right.
So
Yeah, it'll
I
get
guess
better.
like I think at first it's a lot about quantity, just to get the reps in, to get the practice in, to understand what it is, and then later you can know so much more about yourself, what you're looking for, what you're trying to achieve, what's your
Yeah.
process. You know, that helps you become more accurate eventually. So like you said, you make a lot of songs just for practice. How many of those songs did you actually like intend to finish? Did you finish most of them, some of them, none of them?
I had intention to finish all of them,
Mm-hmm.
actually, but like every time I would aim to make this a release. Like I want this to be a release
Okay.
every time,
Mhm.
and then you know, because I want to give it the best I've got, you know, the best shot. I don't want to treat it like the ugly duckling, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it, but yeah, kind of like that. You know, make them all, you know, equal. You know, with as much care and I mean like effort.
Make it
as I
meaningful.
can.
Yeah, exactly. Put your
Yeah.
time and energy into it, not just like
Yeah.
say like, oh, I'm just gonna half-ass this one because it's not important anyway.
Yeah.
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 Because every song starts off the same. It's like a blank slate. There's
Yes.
nothing. So, you know, obviously you've got to do it every time.
Was that taxing for you to put that much time and care into every song, or was it more of like something that got easier as you did it?
It definitely got much easier as I did it. But it can be taxing mentally at the
Mhm.
beginning, but it's
Mhm.
just a very short period of time where you've got to get used to the constant practice and, you know, like working harder, like stop being lazy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just I think it's really funny because I'm seeing so many comparisons between like that kind of mentality and the same way for dating or for exercise. Something you hear a lot
wow.
in the exercise community is it's supposed to be about perfect form rather than how many reps you're getting in. So if you're
Yeah, that's
doing,
right.
you know, like if you're doing 50 pull-ups, but you're doing them in the totally wrong way, you're not going to see good results compared to doing 10 pull-ups in the perfect form. You know, and it's the same
Yeah.
way, like you said, putting care and energy and focus into this song to make it the best song it can be, because it's not about getting the 500 song number. It's about making 200 songs that you actually put time and effort into. And I think it's the
Yeah.
same way like with dating and relationships as well. You know, like it's hard to, whenever you're meeting so many people, like I said, you know, about meeting all those people just to find the one you're looking for, like it can be hard to keep putting yourself in that situation emotionally or mentally, you know, and you start to get a little bit like jaded and disillusioned with the process. But
Yeah.
like you said, like if you don't put your effort and energy into a song or an exercise or a relationship, you're not going to get the results you want to see because you're not doing it with presence. You're not doing it with authenticity. You're just doing
right.
it to get a certain outcome.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's powerful, dude. That's powerful. Okay, so like looking back at all the songs you made though in this process of like getting the reps in, you know, making songs and everything, like honestly speaking, what percentage of those songs are you happy with? Like looking back at them, even though they're not finished, you're probably never gonna finish them. Maybe you will finish some of them. Like, how satisfied are you with the quality of all those reps you put in?
Well, I am very satisfied. Well, so in the beginning, the percentage of songs that I was satisfied with was quite low. So
Mhm.
there would be, you know, for example, I would do 9 songs, and then there would be one that I do really well that I'm like, wow, this one sounds really good.
Yeah.
And now, for example, every song that I'm making right now sounds to me like really good. Like, probably because of a mixture of the things that we brought up earlier about, you know, me getting better at being authentic, and then and also thanks to all of the practice throughout
Yep.
all of the songs. So yeah, it's
Yep.
slowly been getting throughout my journey. It's been slowly getting yeah, I've been more and more satisfied with more songs. So
Yep.
it's like a higher percentage of things that I'm satisfied
Oh
with.
man, so good to hear, man. I love to hear that. I love to hear that because it's a hurdle that so many creators can't overcome. I do think a lot of creators come to that point where they're like, I am not happy with what I'm making. And they feel like they've tried so many times,
Terrible.
and they just like, they walk away from it or they let it go. I know that's something I deal with personally. I don't really have a point with this. I'm just gonna like share it out there just to be just to be open.
Yeah, do it.
I think that something I struggle with a lot is like accepting my sound. I don't put a lot of time into music production just because I've put my energy into so many other things, whether it's my full-time job, or whether it's YouTube content, or whether it's social media content. Like, I love creating music, but I also don't allocate enough time to becoming great at making music. And so something I think that I deal with a lot is like, can I accept my music? You know, like, I know how to make a song, and I can make a song that I enjoy listening to, but is it the kind of music I want to create? Like to give like a specific point, like I often make a lot of stuff that's like kind of chill, kind of relaxed, maybe some drum and bass influence, but like I would love to be making stuff that's a lot more upbeat and energetic, you know, like house music or you know, breakbeat kind of music, you know. And like it's kind of hard for me to figure that situation out for myself between like, here's what I make, here's what I'm good at making, I vibe with it, here's what I want to make, I have no idea how to make it, you know, like, and like being okay with the difference there. Is that something that you can relate to as well, VASST, or is that like totally not in your radar at all?
In the very beginning when I started making music, I experienced that quite often, and I don't really remember it because it was so long ago, but I think that I have experienced that, and I know what you're going through, and it's like I don't really know how to give you any advice on that.
Yeah, to break out of it. I'm curious. To be honest, yeah, go ahead.
I think that, however, I think that what happened was I just kept making things until I kept making things until I made what I wanted to make. Now, it's kind of like just practice makes perfect, like, for me. I think that's but I think everyone is different. So for you, it might be like, you know, it might be suddenly this one YouTube tutorial that's gonna make you feel like, oh, wait a minute, I just need to change a few things and it'll be exactly what I want to make, you know? It could just be some random occurrence. Yeah. No, one day you feel amazing.
I agree, man. I agree. I think like we said already, it's been the kind of the theme of the conversation. It's all about getting the reps in. You know, the more you do it, the more you can understand the process. The more you can understand like who you are as a person. You know, and I guess that life is kind of the same way in general. You know, we get caught in certain moments in life where we feel super overwhelmed, we feel super frustrated, we feel super unhappy. But then we have to keep in mind that it's only that day, or it's only that week, or it's only that month, you know, like next month things could be radically different. Next year, things are going to be radically different. And I guess that I feel like for myself personally, like 2020, that was like a big recurring theme in 2020. You know, like 1 month was complete shit show, the next month was like a little bit better, you know? Have you had that same experience?
I've had, that's really, I can totally relate to that. It's like, so, well, you know how all that we experience technically is the present, and then we remember the past. So, going through the months of 2020 was kind of like, I had to keep reminding myself, it was quite difficult sometimes, but I have to keep reminding myself that tomorrow could be totally different from today, and that this is not the norm. You know, people can call whatever they want normal, but
normal is always changing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, you just have to just keep. I don't even know how to explain it. It's kind of difficult. It's kind of like just keep reminding yourself that things are going to be better because they can, and anything is possible. And
I think they will, man. I think they will. I think that's another thing, is that like a lot of the times we tell ourselves it could be different or it can be different, and I'm like, nope, it will be different.
It will, yeah.
The question is, will it be a good different or a bad different? Regardless of could or would or should, like that's stupid. Like it's going to be different because you're gonna get older, you know, and life is gonna change around you. But is it gonna be a good different, or is it gonna be a bad different? And I guess that's kind of what we have to focus on, is like what can we do, to your point, right here in the present, that can lead to a better result tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. You said that you had to keep telling yourself that. Was there anything else that helped you stay on track with moving forward? Stay on track with not giving up?
I would think that the thing that helped me the most would be keeping in touch with my friends, I think.
Yeah.
Because if you're not keeping on track and they are, then surrounding yourself with people that are on track will eventually get you in the same momentum. And that's definitely what helped me like so much. That's probably what, like was the thing that made me get back on track with everything. When a bad thing happens, like I go to my friends and then I tell them how I feel, and then I spend time with them, and then I don't mean to go off topic, just for a little
Please
bit, but
do,
when you
man.
have
Please do.
when you have a conversation with someone, your brain waves they start to match. And so if you're spending time with people that have, this positive energy, and that they're having a good day, and you're having a bad day, then eventually you're just going to end up being exactly the same as them, like the more time you spend with them. So yeah, I think
it's beautiful, and it's so
yeah.
true, man. It's so true. Like, I think that people don't understand the role that their environment and their influences affect them. And I think the reason is that we don't understand as a society what our influences are. To
Yeah.
me, influences are everything. Everything's considered an influence to me because it
That's right.
affects us, whether it's in a massive or a minuscule way. It affects us. We talked about food, changing your emotions, talked about people. The same way could be said for the weather, for doing exercise and not doing exercise, the music you're listening to, the things you see on social media, like
Yeah.
all of these tiny things, like really, I think they really affect us and change how we're feeling or our outlook on the day, our energy levels on the day as well. You wanted to bring up about different points of view today. Obviously, I think that friends, I'm assuming friends give you a different point of view. Is there
Yeah,
anything
that's right.
else that helps you get a different point of view?
Well, I think that what gives me a better point of view is sort of just taking a break. I think that it's extremely important to take a break, because it's kind of like, it's kind of like your mind's way of cleaning its palate, so to speak. When chefs are tasting different foods, they would, down a glass of water, or they might taste something else before moving on to the next food. So I think that, yeah, taking a break is somewhat similar to that. And I think that, yeah, I think it's a really effective way at changing your state. Yeah.
It's powerful, man. It's powerful because I feel like, especially for us living here in Asia in fast-paced environments, I meet a lot of people who say, I'm lazy, I don't want to do anything. And to me, it's not that they're lazy, it's that they're overworked generally, and now they have a minute to take a break. They're like judging themselves, saying like, oh, I shouldn't be taking a break. I'm not being productive, I'm wasting
that's right.
time. And I'm always trying to remind them, I'm like, no, you're not wasting time. You're not being lazy. Your body's saying, hey, I need a break now. Let's take a rest, recalibrate,
Yeah, that's right.
get back into a place of zen, Is it hard for you to take breaks, or is it something that you just okay, I have to have a break? Like, how do you think about that?
So, well, I actually, the way I judge whether I need a break or not is, like what I was talking about earlier about the perfectionism, So when there's something that I'm stuck on, then I need a break and I need a change of state. So it's not really related to the people around me, because I've, living and growing up here, I've sort of been able to get my own island, like what we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
Our own place in our mind, and we sort of steer away from the people's energy. But yeah, sorry, hold on, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh,
You're
yeah,
good.
yeah. The yeah, taking
Taking breaks, exactly. Like, how do you
yeah.
do you feel bad when you take a break, or you don't really feel bad about taking breaks, right? Like, it's
Oh, I think it's a necessary part of the process, like
sure.
extremely useful. Like it's almost a tool for me, you know.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a rejuvenation as well of my like my mental state. My energy will get up again, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that's why they have breaks in schools, I
Yeah.
guess, because you
Yeah.
know they've noticed that it improves the students' performance. And
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
being here, I've had many assignments related to uh that assignments that talk about the statistics on how breaks affect the performance of students in Hong Kong, and they found that it's better to have more frequent short breaks just to give them a breather. You know, it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like just to balance out their, you know, intensity
Mm-hmm.
of focus, and then being in a state of, like you're saying, zen,
Yep.
a state of zen. Yeah, and then yeah, they also said that they're being lazy, so it's quite the same, like where you are and where I am.
Yeah.
So
It's such a misunderstood topic, man. Like, just because someone's walking more doesn't mean they're being more productive. You know, like you said, taking breaks is a necessary part of the equation. And if we want to be consistent, if we want to be sustainable, we have to have enough time to rejuvenate and recharge. You know, whether that's through meditation, whether that's through going hiking, whether that's through running or exercising. Like, I do think that as a society, the world needs to look at that more and recognize and accept that, you know, whether you're working 9, 11, or 15 hours at a job, that has nothing to do with how productive you are.
Yeah.
Because the way the human body is and the human mind works, you know, it's not about making money. It's about, you know, having a sort of balance in your life and
yeah, that's right.
you know, finding out what works for you. Anyway, I guess we covered most of the stuff we wanted to talk about. I want to kind of wrap it up with a few questions before we go. I want to hear about your mental state going into 2021. By the time this episode drops, it's going to be the new year, but we're recording this on December 30th, 2020.
We're time traveling.
We are, man. We are.
Yeah.
Looking back at 2020, like, what's some of the big takeaways from the year for you?
Well, basically all that we've talked about in one big package. You know,
Yeah.
the whole year's been like a really intense learning experience in a good way. You know, intense as in I've learned so much, and the biggest takeaway would be probably the change of you know, learning how to change your state, because you know the world's in chaos, and
Yeah.
kind of really, you know, that's probably the most important thing, is to focus on yourself.
Yeah.
And to help people that are closest to you, because that will also affect you. But you know,
Yeah.
of course, it's nice to help people.
Mm.
But I think that the biggest takeaway is definitely to maintain your state. of
Fully
mind.
agree, man. I fully agree. I think that it's
Yeah.
kind of a weird one, but I do feel like one big thing I learned this year was that it's okay to be selfish, and it's even like necessary to be selfish, and not in like a, you know, stealing from someone else or being mean to someone else, but rather just like realizing that if you're not in a good place, you're completely useless. You know,
That's right.
You know, we
Exactly.
have to be a little bit selfish to protect our energy, so that we can
Yep.
give our energy to the people and projects that are actually important. You know, if we
Yeah.
are always looking to others for validation, if we're always depending on someone else for support, if we're looking at the world around us to be our mental state, you know, like, then we're always going to be in a bad place. We've really got to
That's
bring
right.
it back to who we are, be a little bit selfish, have an island, you know, like you said.
Yeah.
And that's just the best place to operate from. Looking forward into 2021, do you think that you're carrying any resentment or disappointments with you from the past year?
I don't think so, because you know, since life is a learning experience and mistakes help you move forward, and you know, failure is your way of moving forward, then everything is just a push forward. So I don't think so. I don't resent anything.
Good deal,
I think
man.
everything's extremely useful, and it's kind of like, you know, a bad experience is kind of like a kick, because it pushes you forward at the same time as hurting. You know.
Right
Yeah.
on, right on. Yeah, I'm not gonna ask you about like what's your plans for the new year. I think that's a little bit too ambitious. But
Yeah.
as long as you can go into the new year with a clear mind, I think that's super important for us. You know, if you're carrying baggage with you, carrying like disappointments with you, then it's
Yep.
gonna make it cloudy for you just getting started. You know, it's really
That's right.
important to come to terms. And I'll be honest, like I'm not sure if I'm there
Yeah.
completely. I do think I have a little bit of like stuff I'm still kind of working through on that. So shout out to the audience who's going through the same
Yeah.
thing. But you know, we really do have to keep the mindset, like VASST said, about everything is learning. And it's okay to have been in difficult situations. It's okay to have struggled. You know, we're still here. we're still alive, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
And,
We're
and
fine.
we're fine. And things, and even if we're not fine right now, like we have time to get fine. So keep your eyes on the road ahead. Keep taking steps forward because today is not forever. But the future
Wow,
is,
that's beautiful. Today
is
is
not forever,
forever,
man. And the future is always one day closer. So we're making it every single day. All right, man. Is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap it up?
Well, I'd just like to mention that it's been amazing talking to you finally.
Yes, dude,
Yeah.
same. It's so cool. Like we've always had conversations in DMs, texting back and forth, but today to have
Yeah.
some live back and forth, you know, with audio, like this was super cool. I think we covered some really incredible topics, and I'm so glad that you made time. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. I loved it. It's excellent.
All right,
I
to the
love what
audience.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to the audience watching right now, please, guys, by all means, please follow VASST. He's a super cool dude. As you can hear today, he's got so many great ideas and mentalities and everything that I learned from, that I know you guys can learn from. I genuinely vibe with his music. It's really, really cool stuff. Very energetic, very interesting, exciting, diverse. So I do encourage you guys to check it out. As you guys know, I'm Ben Jaye. I will see you guys in the DMs and the comment sections on social media and across the internet. Reach out to VASST, reach out to me. We're always around. Everyone, take care.